Audio check, 1, 2, 3. And there we go. Bingo. It had to shut down Procaster altogether. Anyways, we got some more questions on the matrix of the DOM and time and sales. So I'm going to just do a real basic screen orientation, and I'll hopefully get this saved and posted in the forums. What you're looking at here is the TradeStation calls the matrix for the NQ, the NASDAQ contract. It's the NQH, and H being the March contract, and the 13 being the 13th year, 2013. So that's the contract. This yellow bar you're seeing is the last price. And we can see that in the time and sales window, where it shows the time of the trade, what type of trade, what the last price was. In this case it was 44 3/4, and the size was one contract. Here it being the 29th of January at 8:45 p.m. it's going to be a little slower. And you can see which exchange, and then of course whether it's at bid or at the ask. And one trick, and I'll show this to you, and you can do it on most platforms, is if you go to Format, in this case the NQ symbol, they have an option where you can display trades more than so many shares or contracts. Sometimes I like to set that to 5 for the NASDAQ and 10 for the ES, particularly if I want to see some of the bigger players stepping in and out. So that's a way to make that show a little more of the bigger footprints, if you will. Right now I'll leave it on show all trades. Alright, so this time and sales correlates with this yellow bar. So right now our last trade is still that same 27.44.75. To the left of that is what they call the bid size. These are people bidding either to cover a short or bidding to initiate a long position. And right now there's 6. Let me zoom in a little bit on that. So right now there are 5 bids at that 44.75 level. And we can see right next to that there's a 1. It's still that one trade. It's that slow that we're not seeing that many. Then we have a gap where there's no offer to either sell a long position or to offer to get short. There's actually a gap in there. But then the next offer price is 27.45 1/4, and we see that's there's 11 of them there. Now the next column to the right is the volume profile, and you can see how many shares on a volume basis traded. And obviously we had quite a few more in this range here, this 39 or so. This was more of the regular session, and you can see where the trades were. And the rightmost column is how many trades actually occurred numerically. But getting back to the price, and you can see where the different levels are and what the depth of market is. Now this is a very small amount of offers and bids because it's the NASDAQ contract, which is much smaller than the ES. And obviously this time of day the number of bids at each level are going to be much less. But the fundamentals, the principles there are the same. And basically the column, so we have a blue column that shows the bids and a red column that shows the asks or the offers. The actual prices and where the trades are occurring are this middle column. Over here to the left, it's what they call an orders column, and you can see right there I have 0 filled of 1 to offer to sell. So what the bot's trying to do there is get short one contract at the 27.47 level. Now, if this was in a trade, you would actually see a different setup. You would actually see a P&L over here to the far left, whether it's positive or negative, it'd be green or red, and then you would see where the zero price is, or where you entered, and then basically as this yellow bar moved around, you'd see the P&L would change. So that's the basis of what people call the DOM, or the depth of market, or whether it's called the matrix, which they call it in TradeStation. So that's that. We got, I showed you the time and sales, and you can see the time of day, what the price was. Now, since we've had since I've been talking here, now we see that 3 contracts went at the 45 level. If you go back to the DOM or the matrix, you can see now the price has gone up. You can see there was 3 cars traded there, and right now we're having a tightening of the contract, in that we now don't have that gap any longer. We moved up off of those levels. Remember, we were at 44.25 when I started. We've gone up 1, 2, 3 ticks, and just like with the ES, the NASDAQ has 4 ticks to a point. You can see it on the DOM. Any questions on the matrix or the DOM? I see the question in the room about the stops, but I don't want to get onto that right at the moment. This is more orienting, more screen orientation. But if you have any questions about this, now's a great time to ask them, and I'll bang it out. So let me go back to the normal size. And because of the limited real estate, I don't necessarily show time and sales. However, I watch it on my own screen, and I find it helpful, particularly if you set those numbers up a bit. I just spread these out so that it would, one, be easier to see for the demonstration, but 2, I wanted to make sure that what I'm saying is that I do make it much smaller to take up less real estate, so I can show more information. Right now I'm using a split screen, and I'm allowing it to show 2 different bots. And here's what the DOM looks like when you're actually in a position. And this is actually an ES trade that went awry, and I've been stuck in it for a couple days. But in essence, you see the current price, and then you'll see there's a P&L there. And at some point in time, I'm going to have to try and repair this, or take my lumps and move on. But there was some kind of a data error a couple nights ago, and it got me short a couple, and I haven't taken the time to, or not taking the time, taking the few opportunities I've had to fix it by adding. And I got very close a couple times to getting out of the trade, but we've had a pretty steep up market here. But you can see, just comparing, this is the ES compared to the NQ. Back to the NQ for a second. And you see these levels on the NQ, there's 12 and maybe 40 in there, 30, 40. But if you go to the ES, even though it's just before 9 p.m., you'll see almost 10 times as many bids and asks there. So the ES is a lot more liquid. The NQs tend to trade more directionally, which meaning that once they make their moves, they tend to move a couple points in a nice movement. So some people actually like to trade the NQs better. However, part of the smaller tick goal on the ES and why it has worked so well over the last, I don't know, half a year or so is there's a lot of back and filling with the ES. So I'm going to take the time and sales off. And basically when you look at a 1 minute ES graph, which is on the bottom here with the black background, you know, all these candles are painted from this action that you see in the DOM. And while I'm here, I guess I'll take a minute to explain that there's a bot 2.0 running on the upper graph. It's a blue background, meaning it's taking sim trades. The lower one is the 5.0 gas bot, which has selective time exits. And what that means is that I took the code for the time exits and I made it so that I could have varying time exits depending on whether we were in the overnight trade or whether we were in the regular day trade, to see if the different timed exits perform better. And in fact they do. So I've actually put that into the code, but I don't want to get too far off subject here. This is just another orientation video on the DOM, particularly for those new to futures and how to look at the, you know, what you're seeing on your screen. And I'm going to wrap this up temporarily. I'll be back to answer some other questions we're not going to actually post. So that's a quick summary of the DOM again, as well as time and sales. All right, we'll see you in the gas chat and gas world and all that gaseous stuff.